Welcome back, everyone, to PMR Podcast. This is episode 25. My name's Andrew. I'm an alcoholic and an addict. I'm excited to be here.
Hell yeah. Super excited to be here. My name's Mitch. I'm an alcoholic addict. Episode 25. We got a special guest on today. His name's Trey Herlitz Ferguson. He lives out here in LA with me. We have yet to meet, but we will soon. He does a lot of stuff for the recovery community. He's a really special guy. I got put in touch with him through a mutual friend, and we're super excited to have him on. He has his own company that he works with young teens and young adults, trying to help them either get into recovery through like intervention work or step down process after coming out of treatment, which is fucking very vital. And he's a very special person. So we were very, very thankful to have him on. Welcome on.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It was a
Yeah,
lovely.
thank you. Yeah, dude, I've been this has been a long time coming. I'm super hyped that we could get you on and get going. And episode 25 just sounds like a cool episode, cool number to have you on. So it happens as it should.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, for real. So let's see. I think that today we wanted to talk, hear from you about your story a little bit and just your journey to get to where you are today. Because I think for a lot of us, everyone has a super unique story. And yeah, I mean, we want to hear about that and then hear about what you've been doing on the day to day in the last couple of years. But yeah, super excited to have you on. And I guess we could take it away off jump, just hear from you about how we got here.
Yeah, absolutely. Trey Hills Ferguson, anxious, depressed, addict, alcoholic. Always like to throw the anxiety and the depression in there because that was a big underlying piece, as it is for so many people, but that was a big piece for me. And I love to put emphasis on vulnerabilities because I think it's such a superpower for everybody. And I want anybody struggling with addiction, alcoholism, anxiety, depression, mental health, like that's nothing to be ashamed of. So I always like to lead with that. But I was born and raised on the East Coast in New York. We'll go way back. So growing up, I lived with my mom. Dad was kind of touch and go. Never really knew what was really going on for the first, into my teens. It was always kind of like, where's dad? And I think that's where a lot of the trauma and some of my issues started from. But as a little kid, I always said I was a nonstop athlete, but I was quietly super anxious. And I was blessed that I had so much access to sports. My mom was super successful, so I was blessed with the option of tapping into almost every sport. When I was into skateboarding, she put a bunch of ramps and stuff at the house, and so I was always able to unconsciously distract myself. Like I was not the type of kid to sit on the couch and watch TV. It was like always, if it wasn't a sport, it was skateboarding. If it was skateboarding, I was on the trampoline. Like I always did as much as I could and stayed busy and surrounded myself with other kids. And so for as far back as I can go, I was this quietly anxious, but, socially active kid, who was just trying to figure out who he was and how he could be liked. For so long, I was in the pursuit of finding an identity that would make me feel the best about myself and feel the most celebrated and loved and appreciated. And so if it wasn't being one of the best kids on the sports team, it was the kid with the cool skateboard, skate park stuff at his house, or he's popular. I really tried to mold myself into what everybody needed me to be for as long as I could remember. And so I really, we'll stay back there. So played as many sports as I could, always busy, skateboarding. When I got into high school, ice hockey in my town was, a big deal. So even as a little kid going to the varsity hockey games, I was like, this is what I need to do. When I'm on that varsity hockey team, like it's going to be the dream. And so my siblings all went to private school. I was like, no, I'm going public. I'm going to play hockey. Got to high school and just dialed in on puck for the next 4 years. I definitely was the type of kid that always tried to take the easy roads. There wasn't a lot of work ethic outside of the rink for most of high school, so I was decent. Junior year of high school, I didn't have the best year, and that's when it really clicked that like this is what I want to do. I'm gonna make it happen. I want to be a leader. I want to be captain. And so at that junior to senior year, I really dialed it in, trained all summer and got what I always wanted. Became captain of the varsity team. Hockey, I was like the hockey guy in my town. Kids were, pounding me when I was coming out. So confidence was at an all-time high. Decided to take a postgraduate year for ice hockey up in Connecticut. And during high school, I partied, but hockey kept me in check. Hockey was the reason why, my grades were just as good as they had to be able to play. I missed just as many classes as I could to be able to play. And I didn't party a lot because I had hockey practice, I had training, that kept a cap on what was brewing, what was coming for my future. So it took me to prep school, did a postgraduate year. So now I'm 19. I'm out of high school with kids as young as 14, playing hockey up in Connecticut, boring as hell, but we're locked in for the first half of the year through the hockey season. We're locked in. It's great. Hockey ends. These kids were pretty toxic. Some of them that weren't there for sports. And that's when I got introduced to Xanax, started smoking a bunch, but still hockey was still the goal for college. So I was still somewhat responsible with all of it, as responsible as I could be, trying to really cover it up. I actually went the second time I took Xanax was for a train ride from the Kent school where I was at to UVM, the only D1 school that was interested in me. And to this day, I have no idea what happened that weekend. But I never heard back from him. So I don't even think I made it to the coach, which is wild. But to this day, I have no idea. I was completely blacked out, but I made it back. Ended up getting some looks from Hobart University up in or Hobart College in upstate New York. So we went out there. I was not very hyped on the school, but it was, I'm the hockey guy. This is what I got to do. This is my path. I get there, and right before the hockey season ends, this was back when everyone was doing like the put them in a coffin. If you guys remember that on Vine, that really stupid, like you just following your homies. I remember we were out one night, and one of my bros like pushes our homie into the bush, does that like coffin thing, and then my dumbass was like, I flip onto it. I do a front flip and smack my foot on the side of the building, shatter the outside of my foot. Hockey done, dreams done. Coach is like, you can try out next year. And I completely just collapsed as a human being. My whole identity, everything I was to be this hockey guy. That's why I was at this school, surrounded with freaking kids I didn't want to really be around. And so naturally I just became the party kid. I had access to the older guys. I had access to the hockey house when they were traveling. I was throwing all these parties. But all my social anxiety started coming to the front of the table because I didn't have this ego anymore. That was, I'm a hockey guy. I'm straight. I'm cool. Whatever. So I started doing a bunch of Xanax, smoking a lot of weed, doing a bunch of blow. Everything really started. I started dabbling in everything. And it, continued to get worse. I was quick to get put on academic probation. I was, I would have the dean, the campus police coming to the dorm like multiple times in the week, literally me doing the exact same thing, like no ability to process and like think like, damn, like I don't care about what I'm doing. I don't care about the consequences. I'm just like trying to get high and skip class and, take as much Adderall as possible to try to keep up. And it was a very dark downward spiral, but it was masked by a big smile and being the boot and rally kid and, the QB sneak kid that was just like, it was ridiculous, man. Like I remember I would like be excited to go into the cafeteria and like have people press me and stuff for things that happened that I don't even remember. It was like, I like thought I loved it. I thought it was like the coolest thing ever. but it was a real fast crash course. Brought me into the summer. I was able to maintain that outward smile of happy, fun party kid all the way through the summer. I worked at a damn, I never even talked about this. I worked at a kids camp as the lifeguard in the Hamptons. And I would like go between classes or between groups coming to the pool and like get high. I was the lifeguard, dude. Like no, it was literally like, yeah, all I have to do is like smoke a couple joints and then jump in the pool and I'm straight.
Mm-hmm.
And I was lifeguard, dude. That's crazy. But of course there's not a problem with it, dude. I'm just like kid having fun. Like sitting at the pool was boring, so I might as well be high. Um, Somehow managed to get away with that for the whole summer. Went back to Hobart, was still just on a bender. I did probably like 12 tabs of acid, a bunch of Xanax in the first 2 weeks. And then bank
Spiritual
account.
experience.
Yep. Bank account went dry. My mom was really good at like, this is before Venmo and everything. So she would really, if she ever gave me bread, it was like just under $20. So I couldn't take out cash. So I had, bank account was dry. Didn't have a way of getting high. And I fell into a depression like hole where I just wasn't leaving the room for like a week. And that's when I called my dad and my mom and I was like, I can't be here. I have to leave. I'm depressed. I'm not okay. So I dropped out. Mom, right before I went to college, mom had kicked me out. She could see that things were going bad. And we've reflected on it now. And she explained that my dad wasn't in a place to like have the united front around treatment. So she kicked me out and had me move in with him in hopes that he would then see how bad things had gotten. My dad, he's African American. The way he was raised is like to keep that shit inside the family. The family can help support the kid if everyone rallies around him. And so he had taken me in. So when I dropped out of college, I moved in with him. He hooked me up with the room in the basement with my own entrance in and out of the house down there. I was dating a girl who was a senior in high school. I was a sophomore in college. And I just remember, when I left my town, I was on this path to go play college hockey and be that guy. And now I'm back in my town. I'm a dropout, I'm a drug addict. And so there was so much shame. And so I was just isolating nonstop. If I wasn't with my girlfriend, I was by myself. When she would have parties on the weekend, it was like I need to have 4 Xanax, at least an eighth of weed, and that'll get me through the weekends. And I did that for month after month after month for the whole rest of that year. Ended up overdosing twice on Xanax. And I remember even after that would happen, there was no like, damn, I should stop. It was like, yo, I'm good. Like, of course I didn't die. It's not gonna happen to me. Can't be that kid. It was just like, yeah, I fucked up. I took too much shit. No biggie. So it continued. My dad has a lot of love and he was definitely showing up for me at this point, but I don't think he really understood what was going on. We've talked about it a lot more now. He didn't really understand the mental health side of things and the anxiety and the depression and how uncomfortable I felt in my own skin in my own town and all the shame. And so he took a very laxed and kind of comforting approach, which was definitely the opposite, probably what I needed and what I now preach to a lot of the families I work with. Whereas my mom was like, no, let me know when you want help. Don't talk to me till then. But he gave me a home for a while. And it wasn't until that following year, my girlfriend, who was a senior, is now at University of Rhode Island. I go visit her. And I get the call from my dad that's like, dude, what are you like? I didn't even tell him I was going up there. He's like, you're not working. You don't do shit. You're smoking pot all the time. If you want to come back here, you gotta get a full-time job. Like, it's not working. And I was just like, word, peace. Hung up the phone. I was like, no way I'm doing full time, dude. What do you mean? I'm just trying to chill. There's no way I'm doing that. And I think I was even like smoking a joint maybe off a bar at that point. And so there was no like reality didn't set in for a little bit longer until my girlfriend, I was talking with her and she was like, well, what are you gonna do? I think in my brain I was like, I'm just gonna stay in your dorm, and she was like, you obviously can't stay in the dorm, it'll never work. I got 2 roommates in a little twin bed, like what do you think? um and so I remember sitting outside of her dorm building when that reality set in of like, you're homeless, dude. Like there's no, where are you gonna go? You're in Rhode Island, you don't got bread. Like, can't go back to dad's. Mom kicked you out. But I always remember what my mom told me when she kicked me out. She said, I love you too much to support the lifestyle you're living, but when you're ready to get some serious help, I'll be there. And I remember sitting there and that popped into my head. And um at the time I was like, okay, I'm out of options here. I think if I went and did some bullshit program, my mom will support me financially and I can move back to Rhode Island, get a place over here by my girlfriend where she's at school. I was super attached to this girl, super unhealthy. Um, so that's what I got to do. So I remember calling my mom and I was like, I hadn't talked to her for probably over a year. And she was like, you okay? I was like, yeah, I'm okay. Like, I think I'm ready to go get some help. Like, what did you mean by that? And she was like, a real program with real structure. Um, I'll send you some that I've looked at. Let me know what you think. She sends me some. I'm scrolling through the websites, and like one of them was Legacy Outdoor Adventures in Utah, and they had on the website mountain biking, canyoneering, all this stuff. So I get on the phone with them, and I was like, I'm interested in coming here. Like, how long's the program? And they're like, typically 12 to 15 weeks. And I was like, what's the fastest anybody has ever done this? I kept pushing at the dude. I was like, what's the fastest? What's the fastest? What's the fastest? And he was like, I think someone did it in 7 weeks. I was like, 7 weeks? Boom, perfect. Boom, hung up the phone, call my mom. I was like, I'll go. Can I spend, a couple nights here and I'll fly from here? And she was like, okay. She got me a hotel room for 2 nights, which was, we've talked about it now still. And she's like, I can't believe I did that. That was super risky. And it definitely was, because I was like, I need to get as effed up as I possibly could. I got the hotel room, like terrible situation, but made it through those couple nights. Uber came to pick me up, say goodbye to my girlfriend, got on a plane and sent it out to Utah. Yeah, still with the total mentality of like, I'm just gonna go boss my way through this program. I'm gonna come in gung ho, crush it, get back. That's what I'm doing. Mindset. So I was like, game on. Um, Took the last Xanax before I got on the plane. Land, still out of it. Meet the dude in Salt Lake City. Get in the car with this dude. We drive like 3 hours to the middle of the desert. Out in Lower Utah, and what I call my, my new beginning. And that was one of the craziest days of my life. I mean, you get to this, never been to Utah before, meet some stranger dude. I'm like kind of a grown man with a baby, but I was a grown man, just like with another dude just driving me out. They take all your stuff, phone, clothes, everything. I'm assuming if you guys went to treatment, you know the deal. And the next morning I get woken up. Legacy was a little bit different than a lot of traditional wilderness programs where they have like a base camp, these like log cabins, and you'll spend 2 nights there a week where you'll do all of your one-on-one therapy. It's groups all day. The staff will change, and then you go out on another adventure for 5 days, come back, reset, do it again. And that was kind of the schedule. And so I got there the night before all the guys were coming back. So I got introduced to some people, my therapist gave me the gear, everything, set me up. I went to bed, woke up in the morning to like all these dudes coming in. They're all like reading books and smell like shit. And I'm like, oh my God, with these packets? And I was like, what did I get myself into? And I met this, still to this day, one of the guys I met there's a good friend of mine. He was like the first dude who I met there. I had dreads at this point too. I was on my whole Rasta vibe, like so I didn't fit in the Utah crowd, but the kids ended up being cool. And I remember sitting down with the oldest member there, this dude named Lincoln, and he was just like, he laid the law of the land down for me. He's like, this is what we do, this is how it works, this is how, like, he was like the leader of a group I was in. And he was very good at being able to connect with like where I was at. He made me feel heard and understood. Uh, and I remember, and I think about often that I was like, I like how that dude like made me feel. I'm gonna like hold on to that and see if I could do it for other people. Um, and yeah, I was there. Ended up being there for 10 weeks. Didn't do it in 7. I almost got in a fight with the staff who told me it was 7 weeks because once I realized that was bullshit. Um, but probably around week 5 was when things really started to click for me. I tell all the guys I work with, that you can't see the picture from inside the frame of your life when you're caught up in it and you're living it and you're in the day to day. You really can't see how bad things are. I think for me and a lot of guys, it's like we live, we got that selective memory and we live moment to moment, whereas everybody else who's watching us and our fall, they're seeing the accumulation of all the stuff that we're doing. It's like, well, I didn't black out last night, so like I'm good. It's like, why are we talking about last week? And it's like, dude, well, you almost died. You went to the hospital last week. How are you not thinking about that? But my brain would just hold on to what it wanted to and was very day to day. And so when I was out there and a few weeks into it, I was really able to step outside of my life. Like physically, I wasn't in the same space. And it was like I was looking back at New York and the life I was living, and things really started to click. I realized how like enmeshed I was with the girl I was dating. I realized how there was, I was in the pursuit of nothing for the past 3 years probably at that time once hockey ended, 2.5, 3 years, pursuit of nothing. I was living for the drugs that I could get. I wasn't even really able to get drugs the way I wanted to, which I'm grateful for because I probably would have died. But I was really starting to be able to see like, damn, I'm doing nothing. And if things continue the way that they're going, I'm just gonna be a bum. Like, and I should have been a bum. If I didn't have the family that I came from, I would have, if they didn't have the resources that they had, I don't know where I would be today. And so I started to, really shift into gratitude, really shift into embracing the discomfort of being in this environment in the wilderness. I say that legacy and good wilderness programs are safely uncomfortable. Everything about it, from the activities we would do to the groups to the therapy sessions to like literally where we are, where we're sleeping on the ground. The to this day, I won't eat beans and rice ever. Or quinoa, but like everything was just like uncomfortable. But slowly through that discomfort, I was like, yo, I kind of like how I feel like this is sick. Just the fact that I made it through these weeks and like caught a fish and ate it and can set up like the mean tarp setup to sleep under and like all these little skills and things we were learning, I started being like, damn, okay. I like myself more now. I like how, what I'm doing, having new guys come in and being able to take them under my wing and starting to see the value of being an honorable man and telling the truth and like really doing the self work and understanding more and more about myself. I was like, okay, I could get behind this. This is pretty sick. They had us do these I feel statements. I don't know if you guys know what they are.
Yeah.
I thought they were bogus, dude. You basically, it's like I feel at any moment, and then you just like blurt out how you're feeling, what you hope could change, and how others in the group could support you differently to help you not feel that way. And we would do these all the time. And I would do them, but I was like, this is the dumbest thing ever. Dumbest thing ever. When am I ever gonna how am I gonna use this in my future? But with time, I started realizing, you don't, but you do it in your head and you start becoming more self-aware. And that self-awareness, got me through the end of treatment. Broke up. My girlfriend ended up breaking up with me while I was at Wilderness, which is why I opened. At that point, I was like, I'll go to any aftercare. I don't care. I'm not coming back to the East Coast.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, hell no, nothing up for me over there. So I went to a sober living called Crossroads out in Utah. They have an adolescent program too, but they're sober living, young adults, 18 to 27. Heavy emphasis, like everything that Crossroads is like skateboarding, snowboarding, wakeboarding, gym. So easy sell. Get there. And right at that point, I'm like, okay, I'm digging this sober thing. So like the restrictions of the sober living didn't matter. It was like, you have to be home by 10. Great. I want to be in bed by 9. I really started locking in on being committed to being sober and doing the work and getting a job. I got a job at Zoomies. Um, got back on the skateboard. Had been like, all of high school, I didn't really skate anymore because of hockey. So I got heavily back into skateboarding. And had just a really good experience at sober living. And towards the end of it, I got a job at a group home that needed some guys to take these boys out to do activities. And I was like, what? You get paid to do this? Sick. Got the job and immediately fell in love with the ability to take what I'd gone through and have influence over these young boys. I would see the other staff who didn't have similar experience to me, like these kids would walk all over them. But with me, it was like, yo, they really seem to listen to me. They, I have influence over them and like sharing my story. They're sharing theirs with me, using the stuff I did in wilderness to help these guys. I was like, this is powerful stuff. And I started really realizing like now things are starting to make sense. Not only, am I grateful for where I am today, but I can now actually use this and like continue making an impact. Whoa, like this is something to actually be confident about and like have an identity in, opposed to, the influence I can have over people in a positive way, opposed to like what I did or how many people liked me. And so that started really solidifying the mission. I was still in early recovery, but it solidified the mission. So I stayed working there, ended up managing the group home. I was there for about a year and a half. At which point the owners of Crossroads were like, you got to come work for the adolescent program. So I made the transition to them. Now I'm seeing the behind the scenes of how to run a recovery company, leading groups, tapping in with these guys on, these guys actually went to wilderness. So there's even more that I can connect with them on. So I'm just now starting to really buy into this, which is something I'm super grateful for because I think it helped me stay on track and stay in that recovery mindset long after I was out of treatment because I just stayed in that world. And I had all these guys that were dependent on me. So I continued, I worked there at Crossroads for another year and a half, had an amazing experience, learned a lot. And always in the back of my head was like, I could do this differently. I think I can make some tweaks. Crossroads was it works. It's a great program. So what they're doing works. They don't have to really change anything. So I didn't really have the ability to make changes the way I wanted to, like I could at the group home. And so I was like, I think I need to do this my own way. I don't know how, but I knew a buddy out in LA and I was like, let me go get by the beach. I felt landlocked in Utah. Utah was cool. Let me go get by the beach. So I came out to LA with a job at another treatment center. Had a terrible experience there. This was one of those centers. I think if you can go anywhere is better than nowhere, but this is one of those places that is more of a business. People who all work there, just they went to school for it. So there was some experiences there, and I won't say their name, but I was just like, oh, I can't really get behind this. But while I was there, Crossroads out here, when you're staff, you can't really keep up with the guys after they leave because of insurance purposes and liabilities or whatever. Utah's like its own different world. You can do whatever you want. So I kept up with all these dudes on Instagram, their phone numbers. When their parents would come out, I didn't know what this was creating at the time, but I would go take the parents out to lunch. Like I built these connections. And so when I was out here in LA, I started getting hit up by parents of kids that I was really close to at Crossroads that started doing, they're starting to relapse. They're having a tough time back at home. And I was like, okay, let me come out there. No business plan, no nothing. I'd left the treatment center I was working at. I was working at this theater that would host like Comedy Central specials and different stuff, like doing just, stagehand work. And I started flying out North Carolina, New York, to different areas where these guys were. And I would spend like a week at their house or take them to a hotel or whatever and hold an intervention and take them and reboot them, assess, and then work with the parents and them on how to like set up a structure. And if it doesn't work, let's look at IOPs in the area or PHPs in the areas, or maybe we need to consider going back to wilderness. And I was getting paid for it. And I was like, whoa, okay, this is a thing. And as I was doing it, I was like, why are these guys having such a, they were doing so good at treatment and now they're back here. Why did that not happen to me? Why is it happening to them? And I was like, oh shit, they went home.
Mm.
I put New York in my rear view and stayed with the sober community and stayed accountable to it and stayed in that space. And I was like, these kids, they don't have that option because they have to go back home eventually if they don't go to a boarding school. And I was like, this is a problem because they're back around their old friends, they're back around their old community. They lose all the support. Staff aren't keeping up with them like they should. They go from having this huge support system to now mom and dad who like really honestly don't know what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, there needs to be another level to the treatment plan for guys, especially teens or young adults that go back home.
Yep.
And I was like, that's the lane for me. That's where that's what I want to do. I can do this. And so I started formulating a business plan and thinking about how to market this and what to call it. And I came up with aftercare recovery coach. And first it was the guys at Crossroads. Then there was a few guys from the treatment center I worked at here. And then I started reaching out to, Crossroads and different programs and being like, how can I like get me into this world, into this treatment world? And slowly over time, I started, attending the conferences and, really solidifying the approach that I was going to take with guys. How to set up my packages. It went from, I was charging like $50 an hour going, it was just set up in a very unorganized way for a while. And then I sat down with some mentors and they're like, you have to design a program. Like, this is what they're doing. This is how we're going to do it. This is how long you should spend with each guy. I came up with the packages. And that brought me to here now, where I'm now able to run this program, been able to do some group coaching at treatment centers, have a girl who will come coach teen girls for me, and just stayed locked in on this mission, man, where it's like, not only do I want to help guys stay sober and be sober, but I want to have a massive worldwide impact on negative thinking, the belief that your identity needs to be what you do or what you have, and just be a negativity disruptor and try to help guys before they even fall down that path. Try to, use my story as a picture of what things could be like if you don't take care of your mind, and like now live a life that's the example of like what prioritizing your mind, prioritizing your body, prioritizing what's healthy for you looks like. And yeah, man, it's a blessing to be where I'm at, and I'm super fortunate and happy. And that's Trey's life right there in a nutshell.
Hell yeah, man. Thank you so much for sharing all that.
Yeah,
That was
absolutely.
wild, bro. Like, uh, every time we have on a guest, it's like if you watch Andrew and I, we're just like nodding our head because there's just so much stuff that we relate to, and just being in recovery at the young age that we're at, it's just very. I just love listening to other guys' stories, especially if I find a lot that I relate to with, and like I had a similar situation with an absent or no father, and similar situation with getting more heavily into drugs once I got to college, and with my sport too, and single mother more or less. And I did want to ask you though, how old were you when you first went to that Utah program?
21.
21. Hell yeah. So yeah, and you've been clean and sober since then.
Yep.
Hell yeah. That's fucking
So I had,
congratulations on that, bro.
well, so I did in between um Wilderness and Crossroads. Right when I got to Crossroads, I went home for like a weekend and I smoked. And that's when I was
Mm.
like, I'm going right back. So I went into Wilderness September of 2016, but my sober date now is December 4th, 2016, because I had that lapse. And I remember being back home and I smoked and I was like, I called my mom, I was like, I need to go right back right now. And then I just stayed away from the East Coast for as long as I could. Um,
Bro, you want to know what's crazy is I was in treatment. I went to treatment November 11th, 2016. That's my sobriety date. So I was in there.
wow,
Uh,
we were going through
yeah.
it at the same
How
time.
fucking wild is that? Yeah, bro. I was 20, so I guess I'm 1 year younger than you. But that's kind of wild.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah,
uh,
that's insane. That's insane. I mean, right off the bat when you were telling your story, like I had to grab a pencil and the back of a card because I wanted to start writing some notes down. Um, because you said so many things that resonated with me. Like when I was a kid, and I think Mitch, like you could get with this too. Like I attached myself to a sport. Like yeah, and for me it was lacrosse. And I attached myself to it and it became like my whole identity.
Mhm.
And then through high school, through college, like that was the only thing. It was the only like factor of my life that like kept me on a relatively straight path at all. Like it's the only thing that kept me from going completely out of control was like, all right, no, I have to be this lacrosse player. Like, and it's funny, like, not to like shit on Denison or anything, but like when you talk about like going to Hobart and being like, like I don't really like jive with this school too much, but I got to be a hockey player. Like that's how I rolled up to like I rolled up to Denison and I was like, like Ohio, like I'm not from Ohio. Like I don't want to be in Ohio. Like I'm sorry, Ohio as a state, my bad. But like I was just like I don't really like understand why I'm drawn to like go to the school, but I know I need to play lacrosse and they're gonna give me an offer. Like that was the only reason I went, really. Like I was like, all right, like they're gonna let me play lacrosse and I need to be a lacrosse player and so I went. And the crazy thing too is you talk like you tell that story like about you doing a front flip and shattering your foot on. I need to hear like the actual physics of that story because that's insane. But regardless, like that ended your career like by and large. And I sat here and I just started shaking my head because like I had a career-ending injury and I can pinpoint from that point, right? Like my all of my it was almost like my addiction was freed from any like my athletics kind of imprisoned it.
Mhm.
Like it kept it at bay, like it kept it sort of kind of like not really. I was still overdoing things. I was still a little bit out of control, but like athletics kept it kind of at bay. And as soon as I had that injury and I kind of looked at the reality and I was like, I'm not going to come back from this. That was it. Like there was no, it was like it cranked it up a notch to a point where, there was no turning back. And like as soon as I wasn't an athlete anymore, it was over. Like it was like, all right, I'm not identifying as an athlete. I'm all right, I'm identifying as the drug guy, as the guy who gets like fucked up. Like that's who I am. So hearing that, I was like, damn, like that's kind of what happened to me too. Like it's cool and it's funny. Like I'm sitting here and for the record, I wanted to point this out before we started, but all right, the three of us have like never met each other like in person. So I always make that comment like when we have a guest on because Mitch and I have never met each other in person, but um like to hear you speak and to just be able to sit here and be like, "Ah, me too." Like that's a crazy feeling. Like
Yeah.
some guy like I've never met and just sit here and be like, "Oh, like I like to know what that feels like to know the anxiety that goes with wanting to identify like and be this person that's well liked and like molding to different like personalities so that people accept me and like find me like to be a good guy or somebody that they want to be around. Like I know that feeling. Um, so I don't know. I just wanted to comment on that because especially with the athletics, Mitch, like I don't know if you want to touch on it too, but like that was it for like that was my only identity and that was the only thing that kept it at bay for a while. So you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I tried to do both, bro. I tried to be like a
You
high
did.
performing athlete and be the drug guy. And that ended up with me getting kicked off the team and like one strike away from kicked out of college. So can't do both. That's for sure. But Trey, I wanted to ask you, and this has been on my mind a ton because I just started working in recovery like 2 months ago, and Andrew's been working in there for how long you been working in there, Andrew?
7 months.
7 months. And so we all work in the field. And what I had been struggling with initially was kind of, and I've been told this, like, how can we split my personal recovery from working with others and being of service? And then, quickly it could kind of blend into being like my recovery is my work. And so I wanted to ask you, like, how have you, because it sounds like from jump, right? You've been of service and working from like the initial process of your recovery or initial starting point. So I wanted to hear from you, like, how do you divide it? Do you divide it? Stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was something that I definitely had to adjust to. Like I remember I would take the group, like the stuff at the group home with me. And we always hearing some gnarly stuff. And it was, I was living and working with, I brought a guy in with me who went to treatment with me and we were living together. So we were able to, process afterwards, but it took some time. When I started working there, it was like a 2 to 10 shift. And so the morning, by the time I'd fall asleep at like a midnight, 1 a.m., I'd get up at like 10, go to the gym, go to work. That was like the routine. And weekends we'd go do hikes and fun stuff. But I wasn't at a point yet where I had all of the pieces kind of designed into my life in a way that would allow me to have both to show up there. It definitely now I do get a lot of recovery from the work I do with my guys, but I have my therapist, I have my routines, and I have my own meeting that I go to, and then on top of that, obviously I always say, even this right here, this is recovery. This is me
Facts.
doing it. But I built my life, right? I looked at, okay, this is when I'm working. But before I even get to work, I tell everyone, like, my recovery, my mental health comes before everything and anybody. My girlfriend, I don't give a fuck. Like,
Yep.
I'm at risk for relapse, I'm out of there. If I'm super anxious and I'm starting to think about like ways I can escape by getting high, I'm out of there. I don't care if I'm talking to the president. I don't care if it's my wedding. Like, I'm out of there, dude. And everyone in my life knows that I will choose myself over you any day. And so I've built a life around what supports the best version of me. I go to bed early, 9 o'clock, I'm done. My day's done. Unless a client really needs me, but my day's done. I'm show on, I'm going to bed. If Marie works late, doesn't matter. I'm not staying up, I'm not gonna wait for dinner. I'm going to bed. I'm up early and I'm in the gym every single day. It's like non-negotiable. That is like I have to get that energy out. I have to be locked in then. Morning is like from when I wake up, take my vitamins, a little pre-workout, and I go to the gym. That whole process every day starts that way, and it's non-negotiable. If I'm going to travel, that's like needs to be locked in. Is there a gym? If I'm traveling for work, it's like I need to have a gym. All those, I keep that in check. Then after that, I come home, eat my meal, have my protein shake, have a little moment to kind of sit with myself. Then work starts. Then I'm in work doing all that. Then work's over. I'm doing dinner, resting, going to bed. And so with that, having that routine and really being locked in on like my recovery time in the morning, the meetings that I'm going to, I started doing some refuge and recovery too, which has been
Mm-hmm.
sick because they like have the heavy emphasis on the meditating.
Yep.
And so now I'm like 3 days a week, I'm in there, get my Zen on, which has been epic. Um, and so that I structure those things and the meet, you nothing can sway me out of that unless it's like really, really, really important. Like, and then I have to put a prevention plan in place or make sure, I always have stuff with me, my running shoes, my gym bag, like the slack line and the whip. So like at any moment I know if I really am overwhelmed, I can just grab that shit and go. So I always have my recovery tools with me. Um, but yeah, I think just having that structure and like making sure you make that time for yourself every day and having some type of thing. For me, it's a show at the end of the day where I can really get out of my head and like let it go. Definitely helped me. And I started building that when I was working in treatment. Now I've really been putting emphasis on it because I'm always thinking about my clients because it's like I'm the whole thing for the
Yep.
family. So a lot of cases I'll have therapists and family coaches involved, but for a bunch of them, like I'm the whole the whole thing. So my phone can go off anytime, but I really try and like at 9, chill. Let me get out of my head. I'll walk a lot, just always making time for something fun every day and something productive for like my mental health every day. And it's been working for me. I think, but I think you guys all need to have what that looks like for you guys is different than what it looks like for me. But like work in that and then anything else, girlfriend, hangouts, the bros, whatever, like that all gets scheduled around that other stuff, around work and your self-work. And
Mm-hmm.
everything else has to kind of fit in. And that's what's been, doing it for me. And then therapy, of course. So
It's funny. I work like you talk about your 2 to 10 shift. Like I work 3 to 11s,
swing,
5 days a week,
yeah.
and like at my day is this. It's like the same as what you said. Like I'm up at like 10, and I go to the gym, and like there's a noon meeting I like to go to. If I get up early enough, I'll go to that. Like, and then it's 3 to 11 work, and it's rinse repeat, right? And I think you just gave me like talk about recovery. Like you just gave me a lot of hope because like I'm a little under 2 years sober, and so I'm early recovery, right? Like I'm at the beginning stages, and to know like you know what, like it's not gonna be like this forever. Like I'm like if I continue to do the right thing, I'm gonna level up. Like you just gave me right now like a lot of hope. Like there will be time when I'm not working at 3 to 11, like, and I have like that time in the afternoon, in the evening, like to do the things that like bring me joy, or like to spend time and make dinner and be able to like unwind and like do my own thing on the back end, like because I love what I do, but 3 to 11, and you work 2 to 10, like that's a tough shift, like to do day after day and time after time for months. Like it's draining, man. The other thing I wanted to like kind of talk about too is, and Mitch knows a little bit about this, like regarding me, is I got introduced to Refuge while I was in treatment, and Refuge has been a big part of my recovery as well. Um, and I can't I can't recommend or like vouch for meditation enough. Like it's helped me massively. Um, even like in being an addict, right? Like the first time I sat down, I'm like, I'm gonna do this for an hour, and I'm gonna, and it's just like I can't. No, I can't sit quietly like with my thoughts and quiet my mind for an hour. I can't even do that for like 30 seconds. So, um, Refuge is dope, and I love it. And so for me, like I try to do a combination of Refuge and AA and kind of combine it. And I wanted to know, like, does it look similar for you? Are you more of like just a Refuge guy? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, actually, so I got introduced to Refuge kind of recently. Well, I always knew what it was, didn't know where it was happening. Um, there's a guy at the tattoo shop I go to. There's a meditation center above it, and I kept being in there at the shop at the same time as the owner, and he was like, "You gotta check this out." So a couple weeks ago, he does like a Monday night, just it's not Refuge, it's just Buddhism class every Monday, like hour and a half, and I went to that and we meditated for 30 minutes, which was like so hard, dude. The hardest the whole time I was like, just don't open your eyes, dude. Don't open your eyes. Um, but I went to that and I was like, this, I feel how I feel leaving this. If I can feel this way leaving a refuge meeting, it's different than how I feel leaving AA and NA.
Hmm.
Love both. Um, now I'm kind of digging refuge, and I'm kind of, I've done the steps. I've been in AA for so long. So it's like I'm like, let me get a refuge mentor and go through this program, And I also like to be able to put my guys on, especially the teens, man. They got the image of AA and NA that the teens have is like they hate it for whatever reason. It takes time for them to open up to it. But refuge, I brought a guy to the Buddhist teaching, and it resonated with him. And so now I'm like, okay, let me go through these steps here. It's very similar, but let me do it in this space so I can bring this into what I'm doing, because it does. Buddhism aligns a lot with a lot of the practices that I do and what I teach my guys, and like how to deal with stress and other people and letting go of control and detachment and um working with their parents. There's a lot of Buddhism in like what I'm teaching them. And so I right now, I guess I'm kind of merging work in my own recovery, because I'm doing it because I know it'll be good for me, but also so I could add these skills to what I'm doing with my clients. But no, I'm a big fan of both, honestly. But refuge is gonna get my more of my focus right now for my personal,
Mm.
just so I can really dive into that. I like to really immerse myself in things. So it's like, let me really dive into that.
Mhm.
Yeah. I guess I gotta fucking jump into refuge because I haven't tried that one yet. And
You should
y'all can
come
get me.
Monday. You should come
I,
Monday to that Buddhist meet, to the teaching.
oh,
Uh,
really?
yeah, it's every Monday right here in Venice. And then the refuge meetings are like every weekday at 7:30 in the morning, or Tuesday,
Okay.
Thursday at like 7:30 p.m. at the same spot.
I'm
You
down,
just
bro.
you
Let's run
come
that.
Monday,
Oh, I'm
bro.
getting FOMO.
I'm down, bro. Let's run that. We're about to run that because I'm off. I just worked 9 days in a row at the center, and I'm off till Wednesday. So we can run that for sure.
Perfect.
I did wanna ask though. I'm super interested about this because like there's so many ways to recover. You feel me? And it's so personal to every single person. It's unique. What works, what doesn't. Try this, try that. Okay, this I like that. I think I'll run with that. And so like for me, I'm super passionate about this because for me, the only thing that gave me relief that I was seeking through the things that I've tried was the 12 steps through like a kind of a hardcore AA lens. And it's been insane. In the last like 6 months, I kind of turned into, in the last like 2 months, really, I've kind of turned into a big book thumper, which is terrifying. But I'm like real down to try, all the other stuff and stuff like that. But for a lot of my initial recovery, I hated AA. I hated the meetings. I hated the sponsorship. I wanted to do it my way, and I never got that relief. And so I'm fascinated to talk to you and hear like how you've pieced together all these like other angles and ways and like a little bit of AA or like like it kind of sounds to me like you got like a drop of this, a drop of that, and like you just vibed out. You found like what works for you the best. And I guess I just wanted to ask like, was there ever a time where you were like not really vibing with AA or like burned out of it or like because when you say that the teens and stuff don't like it, I see that too. Like I see that in meetings. I felt that myself. And I'm interested, like, I guess all three of us can kind of think about like why that might be. Um, and like talk about that a little bit, I guess.
Yeah. Well, for me, I first started doing the AA and NA at Wilderness. We had a group. And when you got to phase two, we're out in Lower Utah, that small, like, they don't even, yeah, it's a tiny town in the middle of the desert. And so when you're in phase two, you're just with a different group. You'll actually like car camp. There's like, you get more privilege. You get to go to the grocery store. So we're eating what we really want to out in the field. And we would go to meetings in this small town with, regular folk, as regular as these dudes were. And there were small groups, everyone talking. And every time I was in this room, I remember being like, why do I feel, there's this like feeling in my chest that I'd never felt before. I was like, why do I like, and I really liked it. I was like, it's cool. I really like how I feel here in this space. And one day I shared that, and this like older head, tobacco chewing, like as Utah desert as you can get, dude, like looks up to me and goes, "It's love, baby." And I was like, holy shit, it's this unconditional love in this room. So that like really, I was like, this is sick, And at that time, step work was a part of the program and what we were doing. So there was like, I was already bought into doing the work, but being in the space really resonated with me around these people. And so as I got out of treatment, after sober living, I had a sponsor. I did the steps. I wasn't going to meetings as much, but I got really into the sober community. My buddy sponsor like ran the sober gym. There were all these events, and I would go to meetings with him, just not like with the home group anymore. And I always just was attached to this like unconditional love. Like I thought it was the coolest thing. But as I progressed through my journey, it's kind of ever since I went to treatment, I've been on this path of like creating my own idea of how this world works and my defining my higher power. And and as I've been on that path, when I listen to someone talk from any religion, or I with my girlfriend who's from Alabama and was raised Southern Baptist, and she takes me to church, I'm always able to find things within every ideology where I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. So I'm like, okay, there's value in everything. So why not tap into as many different things as I can to like formulate what resonates the most with me so I can have the most amount of understanding around why I think things work the way they do, how to structure my day to feel like it's gonna support me best spiritually and day to day. And so I've been open to so many different things and reading different types of books, different self-help stuff. I love perspective. I love it so much. And so I like over the past couple of years with my company, I've just been open to all of it and tapping
Love
into all of it. And so now refuge is like, holy shit, this is like taking something I love, the Buddhism, and like doing it recovery style. Like, let me tap into this and just pull, and I can pull from all of it to help my guys and help them see value in all these different areas without like forcing one onto them. But I also think if you're like how you're locked in on AA and it's working for you really well, it's like don't try to fix something that's not broken. It's like
Right.
we all need what works for us, and that works for me. And like I was blessed with a ton of time in a program to really dive into one version of it. There's also like the program philosophies, and then there was sober living philosophies, and then the group home. It's like, well, this is a whole different approach, but it's also very similar. And these kids aren't all that like so I've just pulled from everywhere to build what works for me. And then still tap into AA and NA when I'm down bad or when I need it, or just to, I go with clients all the time. Now I have the refuge. I have my therapist who's also in recovery. So I kind of see him like a sponsor. Um, yeah, I'm surrounded by people who work in the industry that are sober. So there's just a lot. I'm just getting access all the time, which has been sick.
Mm.
Yeah. That sounds like the best way to just how to blend it all. I love when you said like you're down to just like listen and hear from all different ideologies and like pick, like, yeah, I can see that too with me too. Like definitely like there's a lot of overlap here and there, across those. But I think I did want to hear about like going forward, what are your goals for yourself and growing your company and going like, I think we talked a little bit before we started. You were talking about some plans that are coming up. So I would love it if you would share those with us and uh, talk a little bit about R.O.D Coaching from your perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. A big part of my mission ties into the teams not liking AA and NA is I'm on a mission, to the value that this whole process brought me, the recovery, the mental health, the vulnerability. What it's done for me has been so special and so profound. And I feel like it as you guys know, it would every single person on this planet benefits from this type of stuff.
Mhm.
And a big mission of mine is to make doing that work as attractive and cool as possible to the younger generation, and get them on board. Like, I want guys to be like, nah, I can't hang there. I got my mentor. Like, forget about y'all. Like, have fun. I'm gonna be doing this work because this
Mm.
is like sick. I'm really tapping into like my heart right now. And like I'm taking care of myself, and I'm gonna go to this transitional living house with all these dudes and like turn up and like, yeah, y'all have fun at college being dickheads. Like I want to make that cool. And so with R.O.D coaching, with social media, with you know everything that I do, it's with that goal in mind of like making recovery, taking care of yourself and your heart and being kind and vulnerable and compassionate, like cool. For so long that's been been seen as a weakness, and so I'm trying to like flip that on its head and show people how it's like so powerful to tap into these things. And so with R.O.D coaching, um, I do that with the guys I work with, and I like being a coach. I thought about being a therapist, but as a coach, I'm able to do a lot more things. I can actually bring them into my home. I go into their homes. I don't just say like, is your room in order? It's like, let me see. But guys, like, not if the parents like, oh, he's not up, like I'm coming in the house and waking him up. Like I'm infused in their life. I'm eating dinner with the family. I'm like, I need to see the big picture and help. I'll hang out with the parents, and then I can sit down with the dude. I'm like, yeah, I know they're pissing you off, but your parents are pretty cool, dude. I'm gonna be honest. Like, we gotta figure out how to work with them. The more I can infuse in everything, really pull the curtain back and help guys see how good they got it, see the value in doing this work, have different routes they can go, different type of programming, to help them buy into it and make it cool. And then, as of right now, I've been doing the one-on-one for a while, but I've always dreamt of having the home and making just like the place. I want guys to like beg their parents to go to a place like this. I want that to be like, what are you doing this summer? Oh, I'm going. Like I want it to be something guys actually want to go to. So the buy-ins there, and make this home and everything that we're doing a place of like positivity and vulnerability, like meeting and like the stuff that'll come out of that. I'm excited to see. And so like the mission right now is to find some investors and get the house open. I want to do the clothing brand connected to it, kind of like the Change brand or the who's got a good one? I forget. There's another brand that does like all positive stuff. Like have the guys be able to like tap into that business if they want to learn business stuff while they're at the house. Just and turn it into a powerhouse of like making this cool. And something guys want to do, because I think if I bought into it at a younger age, I could have been. I tell all my guys now, I'm like, yo, I did this at 21. You're doing this at 17. Like, you could be at the age when I started getting my shit together, and who knows what you could look like. Who knows? Like, forget about the parties and stuff now, dude. Be 21 with a house and a business, and then you'll have everyone else like, how'd you do that? And it's like, oh, I wasn't lost in the sauce like you guys. Like, take advantage of doing the work now and see the value in it.
Mm.
You know.
Yeah. That just spurred something real quick that I want to hit you with. When I was 17, 18, 19, I feel like no one could have told me to stop because I was so me. And I was like, I got it. I'm young. And when I went to rehab at 20, my first 2 weeks there, I was like, I got it. I'm young. All these people are they fucked up their whole life, but I got more runs in me. How do you specifically combat that idea of like, if you're dealing with 16, 17, 18, 19-year-olds, it's almost like I want to say, how do you convince them that, you don't want to keep going? Like, how do you approach that idea of I'm young? Like because I was talking to a guy last year who was like just turned 18, went to 3 months of treatment, came back, and then like OD'd real close, almost lost his life. And he had that mentality of there's no way I can get sober at 18, bro. Like, why would I get sober at 18? I'm 3 years out of even legally drinking. You know what I mean? So how do you combat that?
It's the most difficult part of what I do. And one of the best ways I've realized to build influence is building that rapport. I got to meet every guy where they're at. So when I'm doing the intake process, a lot of it is like, what does your kid like to do? Because if I can do any of the things he likes to do and meet him in his space, doing his thing, whether it's gym, skateboarding. Like if I get a kid who skates and he's like, oh, this sober coach is coming to see me today, and then I pick him up. I'm young, I got tattoos, I'm listening to the same music, and then I smack him in a game of skate. There's an instant respect right there, and then we can start building from there. And I build the rapport, and I really use my life. Like I pulled the curtain back on my life to show them, like not just tell them this is what could happen. It's like, here's my credit score, dude. Like, look at this shit. this is where I was at 21. This is where I was at 18. This is what I've done since then. This is how, I thought this way. I'll share my stuff because a lot of the way they're thinking, I thought. And so if I can even say those things before they express them, and they're like, whoa, this dude like gets me, I can resonate with him. It has allowed me to have success with those clients. And there's definitely times when it's very difficult. Like I had one kid who's just like, I've had a couple where they're too cool for me in this work. They just like they know better. And with those guys, it's like trying to align them with what they want and also working with the parents on like setting up the right structure and boundaries. If you can get in there before a kid's too deep in their addiction and put the right boundaries around them, there's a good chance they'll adjust their behavior. If they're, too into their addiction, they got to go to treatment. And when they're coming out, I try to get with them right as they're coming out, even be the one to bring them home so we can just run with it. And again, the right structure, you have to have the right structure and the right setup to just, especially with teens, it's like what I can and can't get away with. They might steal the candy bar at CVS, but they're not going to go grab the iPhone at Apple because they know they're going to get caught. And like the same thing can apply. Well, some will, but the same thing can apply at home and with substances. It's like if they like while I was using, I knew I couldn't get away with shit at my mom's house. I don't know how she did it. I knew I couldn't. And so I never did. I would do it other places. But if you can set the right boundaries around someone, especially an adolescent, when the parents still have control and say, you can almost get them to buy in without saying, yo, I'm buying into this. And if you can do that long enough, they start reaping the benefits and they're like, whoa, okay, let me continue doing this. And then over time you start getting more and more buy-in. But if they can't, you gotta, that's why I want to open the house. I mean, especially for teens, there's no real like sober livings even.
Right.
They go wilderness, they go residential, they go ILP, and they're back home. There's no like long-term sober living for teens. So that's something I want to build as well, where it's like, now you live here. You're in your town again, cool, but you live here, you're coming home to this safe space every night. You got the structure, we'll drop you off at school. This is, like where it can really help create that long-term success. But yeah, it's definitely the toughest part of my job is getting buy-in from some of the guys.
Yeah.
Tough.
Sounds tough.
Yeah.
Sounds like it's like fucking I'm just like thinking about how I've balanced the work life balance, and it sounds like you're like more or less on the clock 24/7. You know what I mean? So that sounds hard, bro, but it sounds like you're doing like amazing work. And from what I know about you and what I've seen, I see your videos on Instagram and peep the website and see all that you offer and stuff like that. So I wanted to thank you for doing that, because there's not many people. I always try to do this when we bring people on. It's like there's not many people that are going to come up here, say their full name, uh, talk about what they do, talk about how they do it, and be so honest and be so real. So sincerely, thank you for coming on and sharing it with us like that, because dude, you never know who is going to touch. And for me, not to get cheesy, but I love sitting here and listening to you. And I know, like you were saying earlier, and Andrew say this all the time, this is basically like a meeting for us. This is recovery right here, and that strengthened my recovery for today at the very least. So thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys, and this is awesome. I think we definitely have some stuff to chop up about, because
Yeah.
I think you guys like have what it takes to have influence over guys too, and like you guys you're cool and you're young, and you I love this podcast. I think it's gonna continue to reach more and more people, but I think I'm like sitting here like, yo, I need to get these two dudes working with me, because I think we could take over. Get
Yeah,
Andrew out here.
facts.
So what do you think I've been thinking about the whole time?
Yeah, we about to build the army, boys.
Oh man.
So,
For real. Yeah,
I,
really
I
cool.
appreciate you. Just to echo what Mitch said, man, it's a privilege to sit like in my home and get on Zoom with two guys I've never met and like be vulnerable. And like witness like somebody come on to this thing that Mitch and I have been doing, and like and just be real and raw, and like really like honestly like in a way that we can't, like time and time again. It's like, it's I joke with Mitch like, oh, people are probably tired of listening to us. Like, I don't think people are tired of listening to us, but when we get somebody on, like a guest like you, who like has a fresh perspective, like it gives a whole new like angle of hope on
Mhm.
this thing. Like, and for me, like that gave me hope today. Like again, like I got that whole thing with like my shifts and everything else. Like I'm 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 somebody who needs a mentor, like always, and needs somebody to look up to, and needs like to see the light like at the end of the tunnel. Um and you've given me that today, and I couldn't be more grateful, man. So thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys. I really am. I think this is really cool what you guys are doing, and I'm happy to be a part of it. And it's also helped me, being able to share my story and be vulnerable, dude. There's nothing more special than that. So, and feel heard.
Mm, yeah. Talking about some real experiences here, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much, bro. We're about to finally get connected. I feel like in real life, which I'm super excited to meet you. And for all y'all listening, this has been episode 25. Thank you again. We'll keep coming back, and I love y'all.
Keep coming back.
But